Find out from Mitch Keenan how to start a business and discover what life is like in Merida, Mexico, in this video interview with expats in Mexico.
Why did you decide to open a business in Mexico?
My intentions were to sell in Denver and to sell in Mexico. They were kind of markets that when Denver was in its down markets during the winter, that was a good up market in Mexico for foreigners, or especially for Americans that were flying down to get away from the winter weather down there and to look at houses. So the plan was to set it up that way. When I ended up, I fell in love with a Mexican, and that person was a exchange student in Colorado, and their visa was about to expire, and the family wasn't going to allow them to stay in Denver. So it was like, well, I'm going back to Mexico. It's like, well, I guess I am too. And then we opened a business together, and didn't want to be that close to his family. So after we traveled around and looked at a few places, we decided Merida was the place to be, and we opened up the business there.
So you, even though he was from Guanajuato,
right?
Did you go to Guanajuato and actually live there for a while?
No. But we went there and looked at it as a possibility. Went to San Miguel and looked at that as a possibility. We looked at Mazatlan, we looked at Puerto Vallarta, we looked at Acapulco and Puerto Escondido, because at the time that was kind of looked like it might happen.
Up and coming.
Yeah. Cozumel, Cancun. But we really decided that Merida was way underserved. There were no American brokers there at all. And even the Mexican agents and brokers who were there were really, they just, weren't doing much. And it was 95. At any rate, Merida had so much to offer and such a great price point. And, you could buy a nice little colonial there for $40,000. It was completely finished, 2-bedroom, 2-bath in the center part of the city. And, or you could buy a fixer-upper for $10,000 and, drop, 10, 20 in it and make it nice. Or you could buy something on the beach, because the beach was close by, cheap.
Was that about 30 minutes north of downtown?
Yep, right? That's right. Yeah, a little more than that from downtown. About an hour from downtown, depending on traffic. Traffic's really a killer coming out of downtown Merida to get to the beach anymore.
Yeah.
Depending on where you are in downtown. But the beach had a lot to offer. The city had a lot to offer. There were also ranches and haciendas, and so there was really, a great variety of real estate that would appeal to a wide marketplace, and we liked it. It was gay friendly. We didn't feel uncomfortable there.
Were there quite a few expats living in Merida at that time?
There was probably 50, I'm going to guess.
So not that many?
No, not that many.
But now there actually is quite a large expat community.
Yeah, there's thousands.
So you actually caught the wave.
Yeah, we really did. We got in at a good time. And nobody else was offering real estate online. Nobody else had a website offering real estate. Well, anywhere in Mexico at that time. We were the first to set it up. And so...
First online presence.
That's right. So we were able to go to potential sellers and say, hey, look, we got a website that's being visited from all over the world. And if you want more people to see that you have a property going for sale, then let us list it. And, this is what we're going to charge you. And, and we take the pictures, get the information, show them the page, and they're like, "Wow, this is great." And
That's great.
We were shooting fish in a barrel for a while. It was really a good business, and the business grew, and more expats from Canada, the United States, Europe, South America, South Africa, all over the world,
descending upon Merida,
started to discover us, and we have now really kind of hit that tipping point of being discovered, and the market's just crazy.
And since you have a partner who's a Mexican national, I would assume that it was fairly easy to set the business up.
Yeah, it did help. You know, because Miguel really helped us to navigate the Byzantine Mexican system at that time. It was crazy, you know, with accountants.
So it's a lot easier to set up a new business in Mexico now?
A lot easier now, yeah, a lot easier. But at that time it was difficult, and he was an accountant by training, so he was able,
helpful.
yeah, to keep the books and everything
Sure.
straight. Yeah, that helped a lot.
So where do you live in Merida?
I live on a quinta, really outside of the city, about
North of the city?
Yeah, about halfway between Progreso and Merida.
So halfway between city center and the beach.
Right. We're actually a little closer to the beach than we are to the city. But we're in the middle of basically nowhere. I mean, it's to get to the house, you got to drive 5 kilometers on a bad road. And then
Have you lived there a long time?
20 years. Quinta is 2,100 square meters, so it's 30 meters in front and 70 meters deep.
That's the lot?
Yeah, that's the lot size.
And the house was, how many square feet would the house be?
The house is probably 3,000 to 4,000 square feet.
That's a large house.
Yeah, it's a big house, but it's 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and there's a big garden, central garden area.
And you paid $20,000 for this?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
I know.
What a deal. How much do you think it'd be worth right now?
Couple hundred.
Couple hundred thousand, but still a couple 100,000 for 3,000 to 4,000 square feet.
Yeah.
What
But
about a pool? Do you have a pool?
no, I don't like pools.
Oh, okay.
No, I didn't want one. No pool.
Are there many expats out in that area?
Where we are, there's nobody.
Nobody.
I mean, I don't have any relatives. There's no traffic. All right, relatives. I don't have any neighbors. There's no traffic. There's no light pollution, so you can see the stars at night. But there's no noise. It's well, except for the birds and the wild animals, and some cattle get loose and come down.
Where do most expats want to live?
Centro or the beach.
So one or the other.
Yeah, Centro Merida or the beach. That is, you know, Centro Merida is 75% of our business, and the beach is 24% of our business, and then ranches, haciendas out in the country are 1%.
And what's the appeal of downtown?
The appeal of downtown, well, the architecture is really the number one. I mean, people fall in love with those colonial homes. I fell in love with those colonial homes, the beautiful floors and the high ceilings.
They are gorgeous.
The arches and the pillars.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they're stunning.
There's some beautiful places.
They're spectacular.
Yeah.
And the price point.
Are they still a good value?
2,500 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths with a pool, small garden. You know, garage would be nice because parking can be difficult in Centro. You're looking at a couple $100,000 now. You know,
That's still.
a few years ago you could have done a lot better, but you know, there's just a lot of demand.
Right.
And now, you know, we've really seen a lot of the inventory that was on the market be absorbed. You know, we had a terrible crisis in 2009. That was the global financial crisis that was, you know, right up there to the Great Depression, but thank God we didn't go that far. But it took us a longer time to recover. You know, in the United States, you have mortgages, and people are able to leverage their purchase. And in Mexico, it's a cash market.
There are some financing options in some cities. I'm not sure whether Merida has that.
Very, very little, and really not for foreigners. If you're Mexican, yes, because you're going to have a credit rating in Mexico, and you can probably qualify.
Right.
But the downstroke is big. Closing costs are ridiculous, and you know, just all the.
When you say ridiculous, does that mean high or low?
High, ridiculously high. So you're going to pay interest rates of 10 to 12%. You're looking at a downstroke of 20 to 30%. And then you're looking at junk fees that the banks and everybody else are going to charge you of another, you know, 3-4% of the purchase price.
So most people pay cash. It's probably a 99% expat market is cash market.
Right.
Yeah.
At least that. And, you know, I did have a guy not too long ago. He worked for Siemens down there, and he's an American, Irish originally. Well, I think he's Irish and American, and he ended up leveraging a loan through Scotiabank. Oh my God, it was a nightmare. I had to fly to Mexico City twice, and the junk fees that they charged him. Once it was all done and finished, he was like, "Oh my God, you were right. I should have just paid cash."
Wow. Do you have a rental division too?
Yeah, we do have.
And do quite a few expats rent?
Yes, yeah, that's big business for us.
It is. Okay.
Yeah.
What is the name of your company?
Mexico International.
Mexico International. If I'm renting a home from Mexico International, am I doing the contract with Mexico International or the homeowner?
Well, the rental contract you're going to be doing through our rental division, and that's through Mexico International.
Okay. And they will handle, I mean, you could actually get maids and electricians and so forth through them.
Everything, yeah. And it's
So it's all turnkey.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's important because people come down there and they don't speak the language and they don't understand how to navigate the system. And suddenly, they don't realize that they've got to flip a switch, turn on the pump that pumps the water up to Tanaco that provides water pressure to the house, and suddenly they don't have water, and
Overall, the cost of living, because Merida is about 1 million people or so.
Yeah, a little over that.
It's a good sized city. Does that make it more expensive or
No,
than other parts of Mexico?
No,
or
not.
Is it still pretty reasonable?
Yeah, I mean, you could live in a village a lot cheaper, but you're not going to have Costco, and you're not going to have
Walmart
or Walmarts, or God forbid,
Home
or
Depot.
Home Depot, or all of the numbers of services and restaurants and clubs and sidewalk cafes and symphony orchestra and all of the things that really provide the cultural scene that Merida has. But still, it's still very reasonable to live there. Of course, you could live in a pueblo where it's dirt cheap, because you're going to buy your fruits and vegetables from the little market person, and from whoever goes riding by on their bike selling bread or pastries or whatever. And
So the cost differential between living in a city of comparable size in the United States, it's got to be half.
Tremendous, yeah. At least that.
Right.
Just going out to eat. I can go out. 4 of us can go out to eat. We can get a bottle of wine. We can get appetizers. We can get our entrees. We can get a dessert, and we can walk out of there. And we're going to pay, at a nice place, $150.
For 4.
Yeah, for 4.
And with everything including tip.
Yeah, and you go crazy. I mean, maybe you're going to spend $200.
Yeah.
So, you can have a really nice meal for 2,000, 3,000 pesos for 4 people. 4,000 if you go crazy.
Sure.
But if you're just going to be reasonable, I mean, you can live very inexpensively down there.
And people looking for culture and nightlife, it sounds like it's really terrific.
Yeah, it really is.
And inexpensive.
Very. Yes.
What about medical services? Good hospitals there?
The medical services are so much better there than they are here, and I know that's a hard thing for a lot of Americans to digest, because we've been told all our lives that we're number one, the best medical in the world is here, and I think that was true for a lot of years, but it no longer is true. We have medical tourism in Merida, where we have so many people who will come down to get a new knee or get a new hip, or to have their cancer treated, or to have plastic surgery, or whatever.
Do you have health insurance down there?
Yeah.
It's Mexican health insurance?
It is, but it's what I didn't realize at the time when I had this emergency hernia or appendix operation in the United States. I could have used my insurance, but I didn't realize that it was good in the United States and also in Europe. But
Really?
Yeah.
What company is it?
It was GNP, I think was the name.
Okay, but it was a local insurance representative.
A local guy got it for me. It's a national insurance agency.
Yeah. How much do you pay a year for that?
I'm paying 25,000 pesos a year now because of my age. But when I got the policy, which was like 20 years ago, I was in my 40s. And it was very reasonable then. It was like 8,000 pesos a year or something like that.
Is the expat community in Merida pretty active? Lots of things going on there.
Very active, and they do a lot of fundraising for a lot of different causes. And there's a lot of different, there's just so much going on. You know, people come down and they retire. And they're like, wow, I'm busier now than I was when I worked for a living. It's like...
Do you have a lot of people, I mean, you know, of course there are a lot of retired Americans and Canadians and people from other places in the world that are attracted to Mexico. But there still are a lot of people who are in their 20s, 30s, 40s that are attracted to Mexico and are digital nomads, working for American companies or companies from other parts of the world.
Right.
You see a lot of those people?
Yeah, we see a lot of them. You know, I would guess starting 10 years ago, we started to see a real change in our clientele. You know, instead of it being a retiring 60-year-old, 70-year-old, we started seeing younger people in you know, in their 40s or 30s, even a few in their 20s, who had, you know, that they were either entrepreneurial and they came down and opened a business, or they were able to work on their computer from home. As long as they get online, they could do their job.
There are a lot of expat entrepreneurs in Mexico.
Oh yeah.
It's so much easier to start a business in Mexico now, and it's still relatively easy. And the market opportunities, I think, in Mexico are excellent.
They really are, you know. And you don't have as much regulation and government interference in your business. There is
very, very important.
What you used to have here, I don't know. I haven't been in business here for a lot of years. But.
So what are the top 3 things you love about living in Mexico and in Merida?
Well, number one's just got to be Mexicans. You know, I've always liked Mexicans. I've always been attracted to Mexicans. They're beautiful people, but they're strong family people. The kids are well behaved. The schools are safe. You can walk on the streets. You have a good. There's a good sense of community. People say hi to each other.
What else? What are the other reasons?
You know, I love the weather. Living in the tropics is nice. I grew up in Colorado. I had to shovel. We had a corner lot, and I had to shovel that lot more times than I care to think of. I don't like being cold. And
I'm with you.
I love the weather. I love the food. You know, there's such a great variety of food because we're close enough to the ocean and we get great seafood, but there's great farming. Everything grows and grows year round.
What recommendations would you give to someone who was thinking about moving down there?
I think what I'd recommend is that they come down and spend some time, first of all, and talk to some expats down there and get to know them and get their opinions on what it's like to live there. And get a feel for the place. You know, come down in April or May, you know, which are our hottest months of the year, and find out if you're going to be okay with that. And then come down during our coldest months of the year, in December or January, and see what that's like. It's, you know, it's a great place to live, but it's if you're going to live, it's not for everybody. And so, I've always said, if you want things to be like they are here, you're not going to be happy there, because they're not going to be that way. And this is an adventure, and if you don't speak Spanish fluently, you're going to find yourself being frustrated from time to time. So patience is important.
Right.
And you know, you got to come down and
good advice.
Try it out first.
Mitch, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us today.
Bob, thank you. It's a pleasure.
Great.
Todos necesitamos sentirnos llenos, lo bueno se nos escapa en cualquier momento.